Godzilla Aftershock is the official prequel to Godzilla King of the Monsters. That means everything that is in this comic is canon, or at least mostly. In this story, multiple questions were answered, some that had to do with Godzilla 2014, and others that came up during the King of the Monsters promotional run. There are some spoilers here, but only if you planned on getting yourself a copy of Aftershock. The creators did a good job at designing this comic in a way that hypes up King of the Monsters without having to spoil scenes that are coming in the new movie. On that note, let's get into some of the highlights of Godzilla Aftershock. If you want to see my review of the comic, that will come at the end of this video. Remember the images we got showing an ancient civilization worshipping Godzilla? Well, those people were Phoenicians, an actual real-life ancient group of people that originated somewhere around the Mediterranean. This story details how they came in contact with what I presume to be the ancient people of Japan, as they mention the land of the rising sun in this ancient text. Oh, and the fact that the old G-Man shows up. The Phoenicians believe Godzilla to be one of their gods, and they begin to worship him. Not long after this, the Muto Prime shows up to face off against this ancient Godzilla. This Godzilla could not defeat the Muto Prime, and it lost this battle. The ancient people thought their god was dead, until they heard the thundering beating of the Titan's heart. The ancient people did, however, notice two gaping wounds on Godzilla's abdomen. Then Godzilla opened its eyes, confirming it was alive. The people praised the revival of their god, but little did they know that it was just a dead monster walking. Remember that skeleton from Godzilla 2014 that had some questions as to which monster it came from? Yeah, some people thought that it was Godzilla. Turns out, it was. And not just any Godzilla, it was the same Godzilla that was shown in the ancient Phoenician paintings. Godzilla Aftershock's best feature in my opinion was how it ended the Muto part of the Monsterverse story. The two Mutos from 2014 were actually the same eggs that were laid in this Godzilla. When the Muto Prime defeated this Godzilla, it penetrated and laid its eggs inside of this Godzilla. It was also detailed that the Muto species were predators of Godzilla. In short, they needed Godzilla to lay their eggs in, as the atomic energy inside of the creature was perfect for incubating the Muto eggs. The Muto Prime also seems to be well suited at defeating Godzilla, so you can see how this species really was the cause to the Godzilla seen in King of the Monsters being the last of his kind. Let's go back to Godzilla 2014 real quick. If Brody was unable to destroy all of the female Muto's eggs, the brood would have hatched and began to reshape the environment to their standards. Once they were happy with taking over an area, the remaining Mutos would end up fighting each other to death. The last one standing would be crowned the new Muto Prime, and this process would repeat itself over and over. Now, I don't want to go over the entirety of Aftershock. I really want you guys to get your own copy because it's well worth the cheap price of $15 to $20. But I will dabble a little in some of the content within that relates to King of the Monsters. The character Alan Jonah, yeah, the Game of Thrones guy, turns out he is one hell of a badass for an older fella. He has an act for escaping authority that rivals something seen in a Batman story. While he doesn't have too much purpose in Aftershock, the story does show the first attempts at kidnapping Dr. Russell. We know that he does eventually succeed in this, as the two are seen together in the King of the Monsters trailers. Aftershock also reveals a younger Madison Russell. We know that this character has a connection of sorts with the kaiju, especially Godzilla, and you can see that even early on in her life she was caring for the big old G-Man. You can also see how Dr. Russell does not hide anything from her young daughter, which makes these small bits of dialogue from the trailers more relatable.
This isn't the way. You said that you were going to be careful, that you would restore balance.
The last notable event that occurred in Aftershock was the massive injury that Godzilla received while fighting the Muto Prime. Yes, Godzilla is safe, he didn't get penetrated, but he did have his dorsal spines completely destroyed. In this video right here, I talked about this more in detail and how it was likely the cause to Godzilla having a different look to his spines in Godzilla King of the Monsters. So go check that out if you want to learn more on this epic fight and Godzilla's destroyed spines. What's up residents, Jacob here, how y'all doing today? So this bad boy right here, of course, is Godzilla Aftershock. Now I got my copy just the other day, it was awesome, it was a great read. Written by Arvid Nelson and illustrated by Drew Edward Johnson, this prequel to Godzilla King of the Monsters was surprisingly well done, a lot better than the old Godzilla Awakening for the 2014 supposed prequel. Now, one of the main things I want to talk about is the art style to this comic. Now, check this out. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah, you see? Yeah, it's good enough. See how sweet that is? That looks good. It almost reminds me of how special the scenery in the movie trailers for King of the Monsters that we've seen so far. It really reminds me of that, and I really think that's a really good part about this comic. Even with the human characters, they all look real. So that's good. A lot of these comics, they end up looking funky. They scrunch up their face in the distance, or they do some weird shadowing, and it just kind of messes with it. But as far as the overall art of the Godzilla Aftershock goes, I'm gonna give it a mega thumbs up. Super badass. We got a good look at a lot of the Monarch characters, including Dr. Russell, Sarazawa, and of course everybody else. If these characters are anything like how they are in Godzilla Aftershock and King of the Monsters, then I think that most of us are going to be pretty happy with how they end out as far as human characters go in a monster movie. I know we're just looking for Godzilla and the others, but I have faith in the human characters, especially after reading this. The story follows the dark and sort of realistic sort of route like most of the Monsterverse content has so far, that being Skull Island 2014 and all that. Of course, there's these giant, big, godlike monsters, but yet they throw in a lot of reality. There's death, there's family issues going on, and there's also the terrible reality of terrorist groups going around the world, which of course is a real thing. Godzilla Aftershock also does one super important thing. It captures the spirit of Godzilla perfectly. Even though he keeps getting his ass whooped by the Muto Prime, he just keeps coming back. He knows this thing can probably kill him, and if it does kill him, it's gonna make more Mutos, but he's the one pushing the fight. Godzilla's always like, hey, you, I'm gonna mess you up. And he doesn't, but at least he's trying. Until the end, he does get the upper hand, and then classic Godzilla WWE sort of back and forth fight. Awesome, they did Godzilla justice in this. Now earlier I mentioned the skeleton from Godzilla 2014, and it was awesome how they finally sort of settled that debate in Godzilla Aftershock. No more having to be like, is that Godzilla skeleton? No, it's like a snake or something. Nah, it's Godzilla's skeleton. They finally made it official. So that was cool. Cool little Easter egg. And there's a couple more in this story that you may or may not notice. But that's up to you guys if you want to go get a copy yourself, which I highly recommend. Whether you're a new or an old classic Toho Godzilla fan, Godzilla Aftershock is something you want. I feel like for its price, pretty cheap, a great piece to your collection, and it's part of the Monsterverse. We gotta support them and all that so we keep getting more movies, So with Godzilla King of the Monsters pretty much coming a few days from now, I really want to just, say hi to all the new fans. So this is me, I'm Jacob, if you didn't know. Alistair is, he's like 4,000 miles away. He lives in England. We'll have to get him on here sometime soon, so he can give you guys a more personal, like, hey, I'm Alistair. Oh, no, I didn't do, hey, I'm Alistair. Oh, I'm from England. He's gonna be pissed. Alright, residents, on that note, I'll see you on the next video. This has been Jacob, and peace out.